recent readings, Capricorn, have been quite psychological, haven't they? And I think this one for September probably is as well. The overall energy is that of the Magician. Now, this is usually to be interpreted as manifesting. I have quite recently been interpreting manifesting negatively, but do you know, after all that's happened and all the soul searching that you've been through, maybe I shouldn't in your case. You can see this soul searching bottom right. You know, you've taken, there you are, look at it, you're under a tree, thinking, contemplating. You know, you might be missing the odd opportunity, but it's something that you've had to do. And you've come out of this quite powerful. You've come out of this as an emperor. Strong, powerful, maybe a little bit conservative. In the future, I think things are going your way. In the future, you know, you look at this, the energy of this card. You know, it's a burden. It's a burden. And you're struggling a bit with it, but you know, you can see your home quite close. So it means that you've very nearly got through a cycle. That's what tarot's all about, cycles. So you've very nearly gone through a cycle, an end is in sight. And what leads to the outcome is you considering quite radical opportunities. Something like moving overseas. You're only considering, this isn't full planning, but yeah. What would change the outcome, and I don't quite see how, but it would be to work with others to achieve something. And the outcome is another of these cards that recently I've been seeing negatively, and I'll tell you why. But it's the Queen of Swords. So it's actually quite a lovely queen. She's firm but fair. She's a silk glove. She's a steel fist within a silk glove. But one of the things that she does do is put up boundaries. Now, they might be entirely appropriate boundaries and seem to be the right boundaries, but they can also prevent blessings coming to you. Now, given that in the future that you've nearly finished this cycle, I'm not too certain that I should interpret it that way. So let's get into it for you, Capricorn. Now, the energy that runs throughout the whole reading is the Magician. And I said I normally think of it as being about manifesting, and for some reason I didn't feel this was the wrong thing to be doing. Well, of course, it's about a lot more than manifesting. It's about inspired actions. And you know, you've been through some major soul searching. So inspired actions would suggest that you've done exactly the right thing. Yeah, you've been through this sort of process of looking at yourself. You've come out the other side, quite powerful. It is a powerful energy, this. Powerful, but it's almost like you know what to do, and you know why you're doing it. And this isn't necessarily logic. It's way beyond that. Yeah. That's interesting. And I said you've been through this period of soul searching, so here we have, you know, recent past. I mean, look at it, you're sitting under a tree thinking, you know. I mean, that's exactly what it is, and it's clearly worked. You've clearly done the right thing, and you can see that cup behind him, and that he's not spotting that cup. And you're meant to say, well, you know, you missed some opportunity, and you probably have missed some opportunities. But you know, if you've sorted your head out and you've got things right now, and I believe you have, then it was absolutely the right thing to be doing. And yeah, it's very good, excellent. one of the reasons that we know that this soul searching was successful is the energy you have right now, which is an incredibly powerful energy, the energy of the Emperor. A person in all their powers, really. And I think that's you, very much so. A person with all this power, a person that people look up to, a person that maybe is a little bit conservative, but a person of action, something of a lawgiver. Now, given all that's happened to you, that's what a transformation, what a wonderful transformation, Capricorn. So, this is a lovely energy to have here after all that's happened to you. It really is. And another indication that you've done exactly the right thing is we've got this Ten of Wands. And it suggests that things have been a bit of a struggle. Well, we know they've been a bit of a struggle. It also suggests that you might not have had the right approach to things. You look at it, he's carrying those wands, and I don't think he's carrying them in the best way. But it also suggests, because look, he can see his own, and it's not far. It's not so far to go. He's nearly there. Now, tarot is all about cycles. Completing cycles, learning from the last cycle. Moving on to the next cycle. So this is suggesting that in the near future, a cycle is coming to an end. It's also suggesting to me that you have learned the lessons and that you're ready to approach a new cycle. Now, I can't be sure. We'll have to wait until the following months to be sure of this. But I am getting very positive feelings of all these energies now. Now, what's going to lead to the outcome? Do I believe the outcome is a good outcome, I suppose, is first thing to ask. And that is, maybe. I think in the light of things, yes, it is. So what would lead to the outcome is you considering quite radical alternatives, such as moving overseas. Now, this is the pre-planning stage. It's not you necessarily saying, right, I want to move to a different country. What do I need to do? How do I need to do it? There's an awful lot of people thinking about it at the moment. An awful lot of people interested, And of course, I'm somebody who's done that. And based on my experience, I couldn't recommend it at all. And it's not for the reasons you might think. It is the problems you're going to get from your country of origin. They will put up all sorts of problems for you, all sorts of obstacles. And you'll still be reeling from it years and years after you think you've kissed the place goodbye. Anyway, that's just me. But yeah, if you start thinking about things, then I think it's positive. It means you're planning something, planning to do something different. Yeah, planning something positive. Yeah, why not? Now, in the introduction, I couldn't see how this energy changed things, and I can now. So we got an energy of teamwork, coming together to do something that you couldn't do necessarily by yourself. So a card of synergy, if you like. And what it means is that I think that there could be easier ways of getting to your goal if you were to consider others more. I'm not going to make any big issue of it, but you're probably making things a little bit difficult for yourself by being all alone. And I was only speaking to an old friend of mine the other day, and she's been through it. Her family business went under. It was a travel agent's but it went under as a result of the health crisis. She got into a business deal that had been bubbling for years, but she got ripped off on it. So she's really short of money now, and she's trying to do all sorts of things to get back. She hasn't even got the travel agents to fall back on, which was always her fallback position, you know. Oh, I know why I'm telling you this. And it was just like I said, I really feel for you, you know. And it was just, she didn't know that I'd had a heart attack and I'd been through the mill. And I didn't know she'd been through the mill, you know. And sometimes just a problem shared is a problem halved, you know. Maybe that's all it is. We get to the outcome, and the outcome is the Queen of Swords, and she is a nice queen, don't get me wrong. She's a very firm but fair person. But the thing I often read into it, and I think this is what we're meant to be, is somebody that puts up appropriate boundaries. So somebody that's putting up boundaries towards others. Now, if you put up those boundaries, it does prevent some of the blessings coming in. Now, I don't know how strongly you do this. But if you can see the difference between planning something radical, or at least considering something radical, which is sort of cerebral, and doing things with others, one is very insular and the other is very communal. So therefore, you know, what I'm saying is, if you did the communal thing, maybe you wouldn't focus so much on putting up these boundaries. And whilst I don't see putting up the boundaries as ultimately being the wrong thing, you might get to resolving this chapter, this cycle, quicker if you weren't to do it. So we can now summarise for you. Well, I've got good news for you, Capricorn. You're well on the road to recovery. In fact, you're well on the road to completing a cycle. It won't happen this month, completing a cycle, but you're well on the way. And it is because you've gone inside yourself looking for answers, and I think you've found them. And you emerge very powerful, very strong, somebody that people look up to, and you've got this sort of intuition. You instinctively know the right thing to do. And that only comes from having done this huge soul searching that you've been through. So you must have done it in the right way. Things are very much heading in the right direction for you. You are sort of considering alternatives, quite radical alternatives. I always say it's things like moving to another country. Now, you're only considering them. This isn't full-scale plans yet. And I think that shows the wonderful change in you, you know, this confidence that you now have. And that will lead to you stepping into even more power, as it were, but a power in which you are almost, you've already become almost a lawmaker or a lawgiver, but this is almost a judgmental type of energy. But it's also one whereby you can put up boundaries so that you don't get hurt again, which sounds highly appropriate. But what it does mean is that it's more difficult for the blessings from the universe to come into you. So as I say, a cycle is nearly ending, but you're going to struggle just a little bit more. And I don't think you need to struggle that little bit more. I think you're there, really, if you don't put up these boundaries. As I say, you're going to get there anyway, so I don't want to make a big issue out of this. But the way to avoid it is, instead of sort of planning these sort of radical things or considering these radical things on your own, it would be to throw yourself into some sort of a project or teamwork with others. Because if you did that, I don't think you'd even think of putting up these boundaries.